Okay, so are you ready for this? Today's deep dive takes us on this journey through the teachings of Ajahn Jayasaro.
Okay.
And he's this Buddhist monk who says we should find refuge,
Oh?
not in stability, but in letting go.
Wow.
Like, how wild is that concept?
It really is. It's a perspective that challenges how we usually think, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of clinging to this idea of things staying the same,
Yeah.
we're going to explore how embracing impermanence can lead to a more meaningful life.
Yeah. Ajahn Jayasaro, he was actually born in England,
Okay.
but ordained in Thailand.
Wow.
And he really emphasizes self-reflection, understanding the human condition. That's the pathway to wisdom.
And he uses such interesting examples to get his points across.
He does.
Like he once used a cartoon about pigs escaping a factory to talk about challenging assumptions.
Yeah, he's really great at using simple analogies to kind of get at these deeper truths.
Right.
And in this case, he was highlighting how what might seem totally illogical from one viewpoint can make perfect sense from another.
Yeah. Which is a great segue to one of the core principles in his teachings, Anicca, the concept of impermanence.
Yes, the understanding that everything is in flux, nothing stays the same.
Right. And to really drive this home, Ajahn Jayasaro tells this incredible story about King Ashoka.
Okay.
Who was this powerful emperor in ancient India, and his brother, who was super jealous of him and was caught trying to usurp the throne.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so Ashoka, wanting to teach his brother a lesson about desire, came up with this unusual punishment.
Oh, okay, interesting. What did he do?
So instead of just executing him right away, he let his brother actually live as emperor for 7 days.
Wow.
Experiencing all the, pleasures and luxuries.
Wow, what a man.
I mean, that's like bittersweet to the ultimate degree.
I know, what a mind game.
Yeah.
So
what happened?
Yeah, so here's the twist.
Okay.
When Ashoka went back to his brother after the 7 days, the brother looked absolutely miserable.
After a week of living like an emperor?
I know, right?
Wow.
It turned out that threat of execution completely overshadowed any enjoyment.
Wow.
Yeah, he was so consumed by this impending doom that he couldn't appreciate anything.
That's such a powerful illustration of how the awareness of death, and by extension, the impermanence of everything can impact our experience of life.
Right.
Totally. And it can go both ways, right?
It can.
It can either fuel our anxieties, or it can wake us up to the preciousness of right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's all about perspective.
It is. It is. So how does this understanding of Anicca apply to our everyday lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah, for someone listening to this right now, trying to make sense of it all.
Well, I think it encourages us to examine what we're chasing and why. Ajahn Jayasaro suggests that we often get so caught up in pursuing these fleeting pleasures that promotion, the bigger house, the perfect Instagram post, that we never actually stop and appreciate the present experience.
Which is so easy to do.
It is.
We're constantly being bombarded with messages that happiness is right around the corner.
Right. It's always just out of reach.
Right.
And I think this is where Ajahn Jayasaro offers a really refreshing perspective.
Okay.
He argues that the human experience, with all of its ups and downs, is actually the ideal environment for spiritual growth.
Really?
And for achieving enlightenment.
So you're saying our struggles aren't just obstacles.
Right.
But valuable opportunities for growth.
Exactly. He suggests that if we were constantly just experiencing pleasure, like some blissful heavenly realm, we would never develop the wisdom to seek anything beyond that immediate gratification.
That's true. It's like getting a new phone or something. The excitement is there at first, but it always fades.
And it fades fast.
And then on the other hand, if we were trapped in constant suffering, it would be almost impossible to cultivate the peace and clarity.
The peace and clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, to move forward to progress.
Right. So our human experience, with its mixture of joy and sorrow, is kind of like the perfect training ground.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And this leads us to Ajahn Jayasaro's teachings on the 4 Brahma Vihara, qualities of the heart that he encourages us to cultivate.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are these 4 qualities, and how do they fit into this idea of finding refuge in letting go?
Okay, so the Brahma Vihara are loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity.
Wow. And these aren't just lofty ideals,
no,
but actual qualities we can develop.
These are practical qualities that we can cultivate in our daily lives.
Okay, so let's break them down a bit.
Okay.
What does he say about loving kindness?
So he describes it as metta, the genuine wish for the well-being of all beings.
All beings.
All beings.
Even that coworker.
Especially. But here's where his insight gets really interesting.
Okay.
He emphasizes that true loving kindness can't exist without compassion.
That makes sense, because you can't truly want the best for someone if you don't recognize and empathize with their suffering.
Exactly, and it goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
He highlights the importance of upekkha, often translated as equanimity.
Okay, so equanimity, how does that tie into loving kindness and compassion?
So Ajahn Jayasaro teaches that without a grounded understanding of how our actions create consequences, the principle of karma, even our attempts to be kind and compassionate can lead to frustration and burnout.
Wow. So if we're constantly trying to fix everyone else's problems without cultivating a sense of inner peace,
Yes, and without understanding
Right.
cause and effect.
we're likely to end up feeling drained and resentful.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and wondering why our efforts aren't creating the harmonious outcomes we envisioned.
It's like trying to pour from an empty cup.
Yes!
You can't help others if you haven't cultivated your own well-being.
Exactly, and that's where the practice of mindfulness comes in.
Okay.
Ajahn Jayasaro encourages us to become aware of our own minds, noticing how our thoughts and our feelings and our perceptions are constantly in flux.
Oh, wow. That sounds like it ties into this concept of Anatta that we talked about earlier, the idea that a fixed, independent self is an illusion.
You're making some great connections.
Okay.
Ajahn Jayasaro dives deep into this concept, explaining how our sense of self is often based on fleeting things.
Like what?
Our physical appearance, our possessions, even our thoughts and emotions.
And those things are changing all the time.
Constantly.
We age, our circumstances change,
Yeah.
we might even radically change our opinions on things.
Right. It begs the question, if we build our sense of self on a foundation that's constantly shifting, how can we ever find true stability and peace?
Okay, now I need to know how to break free from this illusion.
Right.
Yeah, Ajahn Jayasaro must have some answers.
He does, but for those, you'll have to join us for part 2 of this deep dive.
All right.
We're going to explore his teachings on letting go of attachments, navigating challenges with patience, and cultivating a healthier relationship with our ever-changing selves.
I am here for it. So last time we were talking about this really big question. If our sense of self is built on all these things that are constantly changing, how can we find true stability and peace?
It's a question that's at the very heart of Ajahn Jayasaro's teachings, right?
It is.
And he suggests that the answer really lies in learning to let go of our attachments.
Okay, so letting go.
Yeah.
That sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that?
Right.
Especially when it comes to things that we really identify with.
He uses this really insightful example
Okay.
to try to illustrate this. He talks about this athlete who's struggling with the loss of his athletic identity after an injury,
Wow.
than with the actual physical pain of the injury itself.
It's so easy to get caught up in that.
It is.
We get attached to labels and roles and achievements.
Right. Anything that reinforces that sense of self.
Exactly.
And letting go in this context doesn't mean we just become indifferent or apathetic.
Right.
It's about recognizing that those attachments are ultimately impermanent,
Okay.
just like everything else.
So it's not about like erasing our sense of self,
Right.
but more like shifting our relationship to it.
Exactly.
Sure.
It's about holding our identities more lightly,
Okay.
recognizing that they're fluid, they're evolving rather than these fixed and absolute things.
Right. Like don't cling to the waves, learn to ride them.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's perfect. It really captures what Ajahn Jayasaro is getting at.
Right.
And this brings us to another important aspect of his teachings, the practice of patience, or Khanti.
Okay. Patience.
Yeah.
In today's world of instant gratification,
Right.
it can feel like a very tall order.
It can, and I think it's important to clarify what he actually means by patience.
Okay.
He doesn't see it as passive resignation, but more of this active practice.
Active patience. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. He calls it an incinerator of defilements.
Wow.
So it's not about passively waiting for things to get better, but about engaging with these challenges as opportunities to refine our minds.
So instead of seeing difficulties as setbacks,
Yeah.
we can view them as like valuable lessons.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
These fiery tests that help us burn away our impurities,
I like that.
embrace the discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
see it as a catalyst for growth and transformation,
Okay.
And here's where it gets really nuanced.
Okay, I'm ready for the nuance.
Okay.
What's the nuance here?
He cautions us against clinging even to positive qualities as defining aspects of ourselves.
So you're saying, like, being a good person can actually be a trap?
It can be if those qualities become crutches for our ego.
If we start defining ourselves solely by our accomplishments or positive attributes.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of experienced that,
Right.
like where you achieve a goal you've been working towards.
Right.
You finally reach that milestone, and you feel a sense of accomplishment. But that feeling of fulfillment is so fleeting.
Yes, he suggests that while developing these wholesome qualities is important,
Okay.
clinging to them as part of a fixed self
Right.
can be counterproductive.
To true liberation.
Yes.
It's almost like we're always trying to build this perfect sandcastle.
Yes.
But the tide of impermanence just keeps washing it away.
I love that. That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah.
And finally, we come to one of Ajahn Jayasaro's most, I think, practical teachings, right? Speech.
He emphasizes kindness, truthfulness, avoiding harmful speech, particularly within a monastic setting.
Right. Which makes sense, especially in an environment where you're trying to cultivate peace and harmony.
Exactly.
But how does this apply to those of us who, aren't living in monasteries?
It's about recognizing that the way we communicate with others has such a huge impact on our own state of mind
Right.
and the quality of our relationships.
Totally. Like, think about how you feel after you have, like, a really heated argument with someone.
Oh, yeah.
Or, like, even gossiping about someone.
Right.
It usually leaves us feeling kind of agitated and disconnected.
Exactly. And on the other side, when we make the effort to speak with kindness,
Right.
authenticity,
Yeah.
it not only benefits others, but it nourishes our own inner peace.
This is where we see how interconnected all these teachings are.
They are.
Right.
They're all intertwined.
Mindfulness, letting go of attachments, cultivating patience, practicing right speech.
All threads in this tapestry of a meaningful life.
It's like they all support each other and reinforce each other.
Exactly. They're not separate practices, but just these different facets of the same underlying principle.
Because
Embracing the ever-changing nature of reality.
So we're back
We are.
for our final part of our deep dive into the teachings of Ajahn Jayasaro.
It's been quite a journey,
It has been a journey.
hasn't it?
And, we've covered so much
We have.
about embracing impermanence and letting go of those attachments.
Letting go.
Yeah.
So important.
And how that can lead to a more peaceful and meaningful life.
It really can.
But I'm still kind of wrestling with this idea of
Yeah.
cultivating positive qualities without clinging to them
Right.
as like a part of a fixed self.
It's a really...
No,
It's funny because it's like he sets up this paradox.
it is a paradox.
Right.
Because on the one hand, we're supposed to develop all these wholesome qualities.
Yes.
Kindness,
Be a good person.
compassion.
Right.
Right.
But don't be attached to it.
But then on the other hand,
Right.
we're being told, don't get attached to those qualities.
Yeah. Don't get too caught up in being a good person.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, where's the line?
Right. It's a subtle line.
It is subtle.
It is. And
How do we walk that?
the path of spiritual growth isn't about achieving some fixed state of perfection,
Right.
right? It's this ongoing process
It is.
of letting go
Yeah.
of preconceived notions,
Even the positive ones.
even the positive ones, and opening ourselves up to the ever-changing nature of reality.
Okay. So how do we do that?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. It is like,
Yeah,
how do we strive for self-improvement without, like,
Yeah.
falling into that trap of
Yeah.
creating a new, rigid sense of self?
And I don't think there's an easy answer.
No.
Ajahn Jayasaro gives us these tools, he gives us these insights, but the journey is really up to us to navigate.
So there's no, like,
Yeah, there's no instruction.
step-by-step
Yeah.
instruction manual for enlightenment?
If only, right.
Right.
Ajahn Jayasaro gives us a map.
Okay.
We have to be willing to kind of explore the territory, get a little lost, and trust that the journey itself is the real teacher.
I like that. It's like he's saying,
Right.
here's the compass.
Right.
Now go find your own true north.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our concluding provocation for you.
The big what now?
The what now?
Yeah.
If clinging to even positive qualities is a subtle form of attachment,
Yeah.
how can you walk the path of self-improvement
Yeah.
without creating
Yeah.
a new, rigid sense of self?
Wow. That's a question to sit with.
It is.
For sure.
It is, and one worth revisiting
Yeah.
again and again,
Throughout our lives.
because the answers might surprise us as we change and grow.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this deep dive
And it's been a pleasure.
into Ajahn Jayasaro's teachings.
Oh my gosh, it's been so fun to talk about these things with you.
I've learned so much.
It's so interesting.
It is fascinating.
Isn't it?
And to you, the listener,
Yes.
may this be just the beginning
Right.
of your own exploration of these ideas.
Exactly. Go out there, find your own true north.
Exactly.
Okay.
So